Okay, let's talk about how you can turn a flood of raw information into a real, decisive strategic advantage. We're going to break down a methodology for doing just that.
You know, this quote right here, it just nails the core problem so many leaders and teams face every single day. It's almost never a lack of effort that's the problem. It's a lack of clarity. It's trying to make big decisions when you're completely surrounded by fog.
You know the feeling. You're practically drowning in data, but what does any of it actually mean? The signals are all mixed up, the dashboards are a mess, and your gut feeling? Your conviction is just low.
And at the same time, the market isn't waiting. Your competitors are making moves, trends are shifting under your feet, and all the insights you desperately need are buried in some outdated report or just based on hearsay.
But let's be honest, sometimes the thickest, most frustrating fog is internal. You've got different teams telling completely different stories, there's no single source of truth. And that chaos, that's exactly where your most important strategic bets go to die.
So what's the answer? How do you cut through it all? Well, it's not about finding another tool. It's about implementing a system. We call it deep research. Think of it as a structured pipeline for creating clarity out of chaos. Let's just put the old way and the new way side by side for a second. Traditional research? It's slow. It gives you shallow summaries, and the output usually gets buried in a deck that nobody ever looks at again. This new workflow is the exact opposite. It's about real-time synthesis, getting claims that are actually backed by evidence, and creating an output that's designed for operators to pick up and run with.
And this is absolutely crucial to understand. We're moving away from asking one-off questions and just, chaotically searching for answers. This is about an orchestrated, professional workflow that you can rely on to deliver consistent results time and time again. So how does it actually work? Well, it breaks down into a really straightforward 3-pass workflow. First, you map the landscape. Get that 30,000-foot view. Then you drill down into the details, the competitors, the risks, the real opportunities. And finally, and this is key, you run an evidence test. You actually go and check the primary sources. So you're not just getting an answer, you're verifying its foundation.
But look, gathering all that information is really only half the battle. Any good strategy has to be pressure tested. And asking this one simple question, where could this be wrong? That's the pivot point. That's when you go from just collecting data to real strategic thinking.
And this is how you de-risk the output. You have to actively attack it. Challenge the recommendation like you're a skeptical investor trying to find every single hole. Then, think like an operator who actually has to build this thing, and identify all the practical roadblocks. It's all about finding those weak spots before they become really expensive failures down the line.
Okay, let's talk about the ROI, because the impact here is massive. A market entry analysis that might have taken your team a few days, now it takes a few hours. A deep competitive positioning project that took a couple of weeks, we're talking 1 or 2 days. This isn't just a small improvement, it's a fundamental change in your team's speed and operational tempo.
And the end product of this entire workflow? It's not another slide deck. It's a clean, concise, decision-ready memo. It's something your team can actually read, understand, and then immediately start to execute on. Remember, structure creates speed.
But the real power, the game changer, is when you systemize this. You create reusable templates. You standardize the format of the strategy memo. And suddenly you can delegate research passes to your team with confidence. You can embed this entire process right into your company's operating rhythm. It just becomes the way you make decisions.
Because ultimately, this is the entire goal, right? To move from that feeling of uncertainty to real conviction. So when it's finally time to decide, you're not just taking a wild guess in the dark. You're executing a well-vetted strategy, and you're doing it with confidence.
This is how the best teams out there cut through the fog.